Okay, let's dive into a review of this pop quiz on health insurance. And again, pop quizzes are what I call the non-graded, non-punitive review of where you're at. And it's really important that you look for holes in your learning as you move forward through this insurance unit. Because again, a lot of this stuff is like totally new terminology, new concepts, which I totally understand. All right, so number one, these generally last 1 calendar year and represent the amount you must pay before your health insurance provider pays on any of your claims. And very similar to auto insurance, this is a deductible. Usually, I would say somewhere between $300 to as much as what I have is a $1,400 deductible, which is what's called a high deductible plan. Now, compare and contrast deductible for health insurance versus auto insurance. Auto insurance, your deductible is per incident or per accident, if you like. A deductible for health insurance is generally for a calendar year, and once you hit that deductible, it changes the amount you have to pay out of pocket. Doesn't eliminate it like auto insurance does. You still have to pay a copay or coinsurance, but it drastically changes how much you have to pay out of pocket. And again, out of pocket health care or coverage expenses for you can add up very quickly and be very expensive. All right, question two. The percentage I must pay for a service such as hospital inpatient treatment and the amount or percentage my health insurance provider pays. This is called co-insurance. Co-insurance. Generally designated as one of these designations over here on the right, 10/90, 20/80, 30/70. Notice that all of those ratios total 100. And again, here's where we can get confused between bodily injury liability for auto insurance and co-insurance, which they kind of look, the numbers are kind of formatted the same. But in this case, the first number represents what percentage I pay. The second number represents what percentage the insurance company pays. So if I go into the hospital, say I've got 1090 insurance, I'm going to be responsible for 10% of the bill with coinsurance, and my provider is going to be responsible for the other 90%. I'm going to close this out once we have that down. Okay. All right. And let's see here. Number three. The amount I pay when I show up for a doctor's appointment. You've probably done this with your parents, where you show up for a doctor's appointment, they hand you that little pad, at least Walla Walla clinics that way, and you punch in all your information and you verify your contact information and stuff like that, and your medical history is up to date. And then at the end, you swipe a debit card. It might be a debit card for a flexible spending account or your own personal debit card for your bank account. But again, that's called a copay. And copays are paid at the time of service, and they are generally $10, $20, or $30 copay. Now, you're still going to get billed by the clinic or the medical provider for the remainder of the bill that you're responsible for, but they're essentially paying or collecting up front from you before you receive the service. The largest amount I will have to pay during the year on my health insurance. This is what's as bad as things can get. It's the catastrophic portion of your health insurance. It's what probably drives the premium or your monthly insurance payment more than anything, and that is the out-of-pocket maximum. For example, mine, I believe, is $3,400. And this is the kind of thing where you want to have money set aside to prepare for a situation like that, so it doesn't hit you hard financially, to have an emergency fund, to have money set aside. And that's the nice thing about having a health savings account, an HSA, is we have money set aside that we can draw from in case we have to pay the out-of-pocket maximum. Most of the time, I'd say an out-of-pocket maximum runs somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000. Again, it's the worst possible thing that can happen, and the most amount of money you would have to pay for health insurance coverage during the year. This number 5 is a confusing one. What are 3 different deductions that could be made on my paycheck for health insurance? All right. Well, the first one would be the health insurance premium itself. So your employer generally pays your premium or your payment for coverage to the third-party health insurance provider. And they do that as a service to their employees. However, like you'll see in Budget Challenge with that, I believe it's the $50.04 that are taken out of your paycheck every 2 weeks. They might deduct money for your health insurance premium. So that's the first deduction you might see, is an actual deduction for part of the health insurance premium that's being paid to that insurance company. Your employer takes a little bit out of your check to offset their costs for health insurance. That money taken out of your paycheck is tax-free. And again, whenever we say tax-free, that's a good thing, and that you never have to pay income taxes on that money. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, and we've talked a little bit, and if you maybe need to go back and review again with the initial conversation about health insurance, number 2 would be the FSA, the flexible spending account, where you're taking money out of your paycheck on a regular basis. You're estimating how much you're going to spend during the year. It's being sent by your employer to a third-party FSA administrator. You then draw money out of that during the year as you incur health-related expenses, and you can draw out of it either with like a debit card that you swipe with the thing at the doctor's office, the little pad that they give you, or you can pay your bills with a debit card, all right? Or you can actually pay the bills with your own money and then actually get reimbursed by the FSA. And again, the FSA, if you don't use it by the end of the year, it's gone. So any money taken out for an FSA that you estimate at the beginning of the year will also be tax-free. That would be a second deduction taken from your paycheck. A third one would be your HSA, your health savings account, which again, you have to be on a high deductible plan or a somewhat risky health insurance plan to be eligible for an HSA. And in this case, the money is being deducted from your paycheck. In this case, your employer sends it to a bank account that you have set up with a bank, with a HSA provider. In my case, that's what I've done through Washington State, is set this up. And then as I incur health insurance related expenses, I draw that money out of my HSA over time. And the nice thing about the HSA is it rolls over each year, and you can build up quite a bit of money over time to cover your expenses. So those are the 3 main items that would be deducted from your paycheck. And I just want to point out that all of those involve tax-free situations. All the money taken out is tax-free. However, all the money must be used for health insurance related expenses. Which is the higher cost of medicine? Generic, name brand? There's a little difference between the two. I was just in Walgreens yesterday, and there was a sign on the pharmacy wall which says, "We may choose to substitute a generic brand for a name brand on your prescription." All right? And they're basically saying, we may find a lower cost alternative for you that has the same benefits as these popular name brand drugs. And again, I'm not the greatest on all the different pharmaceutical items out there, but for example, after my accident in 2015, I was on warfarin for 3 months, which is a blood thinner. Warfarin, by the way, is a low dose of rat poison. No kidding. All right? And that warfarin would be an example of a name brand drug for blood thinner. Or there's Eliquis, which I believe is another name brand for blood thinner. And those name brand drugs are generally more expensive than generic. Generic would be something that would just say blood thinner. All right? Eliquis and warfarin would be name brand drugs. So the name brand drugs are more expensive. And your doctor, when you see them and they fill out a prescription and they send it to the pharmacy or Walgreens or a Bimart or something like that, they will ask you and tell you, hey, I think the generic drug would work just fine for this situation. Or they might say, I think you should try this name brand drug because it'll help you a lot more. Describe how either an HSA or FSA works. Well, I think I just explained that when we talked about the three different deductions for health care. FSA, again, sent to a third party, use it during the year. You estimate at the beginning of the year conservatively what you're going to spend, and if you don't use it by the end of the year, it's gone. Use it or lose it. HSA, you have to be on a high deductible plan. It's taken out during the year, sent to this account that's in your name. You pull money out for health related expenses, and it does roll over from year to year. And again, you have to be on that high deductible insurance plan to be eligible for that. All right, Cammie has health insurance coverage through her employer. She has a $300 deductible, a copay of $20, hospital coinsurance of $10.90. Her maximum out of pocket is $2,000. She was injured in a falling accident in June and has already reached her deductible for the year. That's critical. And spent 2 days in the hospital. The total cost of her care was $15,000. How much of the hospital bill will she have to pay? Okay, so reconfiguring my screen here for Cammie. I'm going to go through that slide for process for calculating out of pocket, which I will also attach to this review as well. Has out-of-pocket maximum been reached? Well, we can assume that she has spent her $300 deductible. So let's assume that that's the maximum amount that she has paid toward her out-of-pocket maximum. So no, the maximum out-of-pocket has not been reached. She has just spent $300 so far. That's, again, just kind of an assumption. How much, number two, how much of the annual deductible remains? Zero, because it says she has reached her, let's see, I cut something off here, I believe. She had reached her deductible. She had already reached her, She'd already reached her deductible for the year and spent 2 days in the hospital. So how much of the annual deductible remains? Zero. She spent it all. Okay, that's an important factor. Number three, is it doctor or hospital? I think it's obvious. This is hospital, and coinsurance will apply. All right, so I deleted the point about doctors and moved right into the hospital. So number one, apply the remaining deductible. Well, there is no remaining deductible to apply because she's already spent her $300 for the year. Okay. Coinsurance, 10% or 0.1. It says she has a 1090 coinsurance up here. So she's going to pay 10%. Her insurance provider is going to pay 90%. So 10% or 0.1, converting a percentage to a decimal. And if you're not good at this, put 10 point, maybe 10.0%, and slide your decimal place over twice to the left to come up with 0.1 times the bill, or the remaining bill, which is $15,000. So her coinsurance is going to be $1,500. Well, she gonna have to pay that full $1,500? Well, let's look at number three here. Then compare total deductible plus coinsurance to out-of-pocket maximum. She's paid her $300 deductible. We're assuming that's what she's paid toward coinsurance. Toward her out-of-pocket maximum, plus the $1,500 she just paid for coinsurance. That equals $1,800 for the year. And from the information that we currently have, that is less than her out-of-pocket maximum, so she's still under that. So in this case, she would pay the $1,500 coinsurance for this $15,000 bill. Okay, next, Daniel's paid $175 toward his 2017 deductible of $300, has a copay of $30. His maximum out of pocket is $3,000. He had to go to the walk-in clinic on January 1st for a possible sprained ankle he suffered while celebrating New Year's with his friends. The cost of the visit was $275. How much is the copay? How much more will he get billed for? Well, I want you to take very careful attention to, he went into the walk-in clinic on January 1. He started a new year. So this whole thing about he has paid $175 toward his deductible for 2017 is no longer in play. He is starting all over again with a new calendar year for health coverage. So he's just starting out fresh with zero. So how has out-of-pocket maximum been reached? No. he spent 0. How much of the annual deductible remains? Where his deductible is $300, and for 2018, he has spent 0. So 300 remains. Is this a doctor or a hospital? It's a doctor because he went into the walk-in clinic. Hospital is not involved. If doctor, apply the copay. So the copay is 30. So at the time of service, he has his bill of $275 minus the copay of 30 to leave $245. Again, he could pay this copay with either his FSA or his HSA debit cards, pulling that money out. The $245 remainder of the bill, which he's going to be sent a bill for, is less than his $300 deductible. Understand the copay up here is not applied to the deductible. The $245 remainder is less than the $300 deductible. He will be billed for the amount, the entire remaining bill of $245. So ultimately, he ends up paying the full $275 because it's his first trip of the year. $30 copay, $245 remainder of the bill. Okay, continuing on here, we got number 10. Susie got to the end of the year, December 31. They plan to have $3,000 taken out of her paycheck for out-of-pocket medical expenses. Now understand, once you start out the year and you've done your estimate, you can't not make any changes unless you have a change in like dependents or something, what we call a qualifying event. So once you start out the year, you can't like get a mulligan or change your mind and go, oops. No, you're locked into that $3,000 amount. She has spent $2,500 out of pocket. If she has a flexible spending account, FSA, what happens to the remainder? It's gone. She just lost, in essence, the $500 that she hasn't spent out of pocket so far. Now, again, you could get to the end of the year, and if you hadn't used it, you could go buy new prescription sunglasses or something like that with that money remaining. You want to use all the money that's there, otherwise it's gone at the end of the year with an FSA account. And again, I just kind of throw these in for laughs and giggles, but there was a tragic airplane crash where every single person was killed. Who survived? The couples. There you go. All right. I hope you enjoyed that. The captain of a ship was telling this interesting story. We traveled the sea far and wide. At one time, 2 of my sailors were standing on opposite sides of the ship. One was looking west and the other one east. At the same time, they could see each other clearly. How can this be? Well, they were facing inward, and one was facing east and one was facing west. That's how that can be. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope this has been helpful. And again, take note of the areas you're still struggling with. And if you're still confused by something, please send me an email, sreardon@cpps.org. Have a great day.